The silence after success. You do everything you were told to do. You check the boxes, chase the promotion, get the degree, buy the house, and smile for the photo that says you've made it. And yet, somewhere between the applause and the next to-do list, a strange silence grows. You've met every standard except the one that truly matters, the feeling that your life actually means something. This isn't a flaw in you. It's the inevitable collision between human longing and a world that rarely answers back. The feeling of emptiness that follows achievement is not failure. It's an awakening, the beginning of awareness that meaning can't be bought or borrowed. Every morning, millions of people put on a costume of purpose. We wear productivity like armor and achievement like oxygen. But underneath it, there's the quiet fear that we're missing the point. You feel it in the Sunday night dread, the post-vacation void, the late-night thought that your life feels rehearsed. This isn't depression, it's disconnection. The realization that living on autopilot keeps you busy but never fulfilled. We live in a world obsessed with outcomes, but the soul is fed by process, not prizes. The silence you feel after success is the moment life invites you to stop running and start listening. Albert Camus called this moment the awakening to the absurd, the recognition that we crave meaning in a universe that offers none by default. For him, it wasn't tragedy, it was truth. You are not broken because you can't find purpose in the noise. You are simply awake enough to realize that purpose is not something waiting to be found. It's something that must be created. And the first step to creating it is accepting the absurd beauty of your own consciousness, the miracle that you can even ask why in the first place.
The weight of routine. Let's be honest, most days feel like reruns. You wake, work, scroll, sleep, repeat. You play your role in a system designed to reward consistency over consciousness. But routine, while stabilizing, can also quietly suffocate. Camus saw this in the myth of Sisyphus, a man condemned to push the same boulder up the same hill forever. It's an ancient mirror of our modern lives, the spreadsheets, emails, commutes, the endless repetition disguised as progress. The tragedy isn't the work itself, but our blindness to its meaning. We forget to notice the small rebellions that make existence worth living. A deep breath, a kind word, a moment of stillness amid noise. Sisyphus's punishment wasn't physical, it was psychological. His suffering began the moment he realized his labor would never end. Yet that awareness, that spark of consciousness, was also his key to freedom. In that sense, awareness is double-edged. It hurts, but it liberates. When you become conscious of your loop, you're no longer a prisoner to it. The question becomes, will you let awareness paralyze you, or will you use it to live deliberately? Routine doesn't have to be your cage, it can be your canvas. Our lives often oscillate between striving and numbing. We chase goals until exhaustion, then seek distraction to escape it. But the mind isn't healed by escape, it's healed by engagement. The Stoics taught this long before Camus, to live with presence in the task before you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, 'I am rising to do the work of a human being.'" The absurdity of life doesn't erase its value, it reveals it. Even the smallest act, done with awareness, becomes sacred. The false escapes. When faced with meaninglessness, most people run toward distraction, ideology, or despair. Camus warned of two dead ends: nihilism, which denies all meaning, and blind faith, which invents it. Both are forms of surrender. Nihilism whispers, "Nothing matters, so why care?" a seductive numbness that protects you from disappointment but starves your soul. Blind faith does the opposite. It replaces uncertainty with dogma, offering comfort at the cost of freedom. In both cases, you stop thinking deeply, stop questioning, stop living. True courage lies not in escaping absurdity, but in facing it. Eyes open, heart steady. Modern psychology mirrors this insight. Cognitive behavioral therapy teaches that meaning is not an external truth to uncover, but a framework we construct through conscious interpretation. When life feels empty, it's not that meaning has vanished, it's that the lens through which you view your life has narrowed. Reframing your thoughts from, "I must have a purpose," to, "I can create purpose through what I choose to value," transforms paralysis into movement. The mind finds strength in authorship. That brings us to rebellion. Not the loud kind, but the quiet defiance of continuing anyway. To get up, to show up, to keep loving, even when life makes no promises, that is rebellion. You don't need the universe to justify your existence to live fully. You need to see that living itself is the justification. Every moment of awareness, every act of care, every spark of creativity is a form of resistance against despair. Meaning is not discovered, it is chosen. The art of rebellion. If life offers no built-in meaning, then the only rational response is to live as if your choices matter anyway. That's the essence of rebellion, not chaos, but clarity. Camus called it the act of saying yes to life, while knowing it will never answer back. This isn't resignation, it's strength. Stoicism echoes the same truth. We can't control the external world, only our response to it. Rebellion begins the moment you take ownership of that response. You can't force the rock to disappear, but you can choose how to push it, with frustration or with grace. Camus described 3 pillars of this defiant life: revolt, freedom, and passion. Revolt is simple awareness, seeing the absurd and refusing to deny it. Freedom is realizing that without a cosmic script, you're free to write your own. Passion is living fully in each passing moment. Together, they form a mindset of liberation. When you stop demanding that life justify itself, you begin to see the miracle in the ordinary. The morning light, the laughter of a friend, the breath you didn't notice, all become acts of quiet celebration. This is where ancient philosophy meets modern psychology. Viktor Frankl, a survivor of the Holocaust, wrote that those who have a why to live can bear almost any how. But even he admitted that why can be self-chosen. Meaning doesn't descend from heaven. It's built from the materials of your daily life. Every decision, to be kind, to create, to persist, is an assertion of purpose. You become a craftsman of your own significance. When you stop searching for a universal meaning and start crafting a personal one, you move from victimhood to author. Freedom in the absurd. Freedom often scares us more than confinement. When you realize no grand plan is guiding you, it can feel like stepping off a cliff into open air. But that space, that terrifying openness, is also possibility. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." In the context of absurdism, this means your freedom lies not in escaping struggle, but in defining how you meet it. You may not choose your rock, but you can choose your rhythm. The psychological parallel is autonomy, the feeling that your actions come from your own values. Studies show that people who act from intrinsic motivation rather than external reward report higher well-being. When you stop performing life for applause and start living from alignment, the emptiness begins to fade. You realize freedom isn't a lack of structure, it's the ability to build your own. Each moment becomes a creative act, not waiting for life to give meaning, but pouring meaning into it through awareness and intention.
Sisyphus, in Camus' eyes, reaches this realization. As the stone rolls back, he walks down the mountain conscious, aware, and unbroken. The gods can dictate his task, but not his attitude. His mind is his kingdom. In that awareness, he transcends punishment. He becomes the symbol of humanity's power to choose joy, even when logic says it's futile. The Stoics would call this amor fati, love of one's fate. To embrace the rock, not out of masochism, but out of wisdom. Because resistance is what shapes strength. Passion and presence. Passion for Camus wasn't reckless indulgence, it was full participation in existence. To live passionately is to live awake, to touch, taste, breathe, and think deeply. The absurd reminds you that every moment could be your last, so each becomes infinitely precious. Mindfulness research supports this ancient truth. Awareness intensifies experience. When you slow down enough to see the sunlight on your desk or the rise and fall of your breath, you reclaim the life that distraction steals. Passion is the opposite of escape, it's immersion. This brings us to a simple but radical practice: attention. Attention is your rebellion. In a world that profits from your distraction, choosing to be fully present is a quiet revolution. When you eat, eat. When you walk, walk. When you work, work with your whole self. You can transform the mundane into meditation. Even your most repetitive tasks can become sacred rituals of awareness. The rock is still there, but now it's luminous. This is not about erasing difficulty, it's about meeting it with depth. This is the heart of resilience. When you stop resisting life cycles and begin dancing with them, you find flow. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi described flow as the state where action and awareness merge, when you're so engaged that time disappears. Flow is the modern echo of Sisyphus's joy, complete presence in the climb. You lose yourself not in despair, but in devotion. You realize meaning isn't found at the summit, it's experienced in the ascent itself. If this message is resonating with you, take a moment to reflect on your own daily climb. What is your rock? Where do you find resistance? The rebellion isn't in changing the world, it's in changing your stance toward it. Imagine Sisyphus at the base once more, hands on the stone, breath steady. He knows the rock will fall again, he knows this climb will never end. And yet, he smiles, not with arrogance, but understanding. The struggle itself fills his heart. That's not tragedy, it's triumph. Because the moment you choose your effort, you reclaim your power. Meaning was never missing. It was waiting in the motion all along. Reclaiming inner stillness. When the climb feels endless, stillness becomes your secret strength, not escape, but awareness within the motion. The Stoics practiced this through deliberate pauses, moments to observe rather than react. Epictetus reminded his students, we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. In the modern world, stillness is rebellion. While others scroll, you breathe. While others rush, you notice.
This doesn't make you passive, it makes you present. Stillness doesn't stop the mountain, it slows time long enough for you to feel its texture. Neuroscience confirms what philosophy intuited. When you pause, the prefrontal cortex, the seat of reason and perspective, regains control. You move from reaction to reflection. That's where discipline begins, in the second before you act. Try this in the simplest way. When irritation arises, breathe before responding. You'll notice how often impulse is just unexamined fear. Stillness turns chaos into clarity. Meaning, then, isn't found by adding more to your life, but by subtracting noise until what's real remains. In that silence, you start hearing a different voice. Not the one trained to chase validation, but the one that simply is. The Stoics called it your rational nature. Modern psychology calls it self-awareness. It's the awareness that observes your mind like a calm witness, not a judge. You begin to see that you are not your thoughts or failures. You are the one noticing them. In that noticing, you rediscover peace, not as escape from life, but as alignment with it. Courage isn't loud. Sometimes it's just continuing to care when cynicism would be easier. In an indifferent universe, choosing empathy is the ultimate rebellion. The world may not promise fairness, yet you choose kindness anyway. You hold the door open, you listen without agenda, you forgive when anger would be justified. That's not weakness, it's moral strength. Camus called this metaphysical rebellion, to create human meaning through compassion in a world that offers none. Every small act of goodness is a vote for a better reality. Modern psychology calls this the helper's high, the measurable release of dopamine and oxytocin when we act altruistically. It proves that doing good heals the giver. But the point isn't reward, it's resonance. The more you serve others, the more you remember your own humanity. Service doesn't erase the absurd, it transcends it. You turn the struggle into connection, the void into meaning shared. Caring deeply is not naivete, it's conscious defiance against despair. Seneca once wrote, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." In that sentence lies a blueprint for rebuilding meaning from the inside out. You might not fix the world, but you can make a moment better. The more moments you redeem, the more the world quietly changes shape around you. Caring doesn't solve the absurd, it beautifies it. And beauty, even fleeting, is proof that the human spirit still shines through the cracks. Discipline and the daily climb. Discipline isn't about control, it's about direction. When meaning feels uncertain, routine can become ritual. The Stoics knew that a consistent practice, journaling, gratitude, reflection, gives the mind structure to hold against chaos. Modern neuroscience agrees. Repetition reshapes neural pathways. You literally sculpt resilience through habit. The climb becomes lighter, not because the mountain shrinks, but because your legs grow stronger. Ask yourself, what do you do each morning that strengthens your soul, not just your schedule? It might be silence before sunrise, writing a single line of gratitude, or moving your body before you speak to the world. These acts seem small, but consistency turns them into identity. The more you show up for yourself, the less you need external validation. Discipline transforms struggle into rhythm, and rhythm becomes meaning in motion. That's why the happiest people are often not those with the easiest lives, but those who've learned to meet difficulty with deliberate rhythm. They understand what Marcus Aurelius meant when he said, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." Discipline reclaims your estimate. Each time you push your rock with intention, you rewrite the narrative. You stop being punished by repetition and start being purified by it. Gratitude in the struggle. Gratitude doesn't deny pain, it reframes it. It's seeing the same mountain but noticing the view. You can curse the climb or thank the strength it builds. Psychologists studying gratitude journaling found it consistently increases baseline happiness, not because it adds new pleasures, but because it shifts attention from absence to abundance. Stoicism calls this premeditatio malorum, the contemplation of misfortune, reminding you that everything could be taken, so every breath is a gift. Gratitude grounds rebellion in wonder. Try this. Tonight, list not what went wrong, but what endured. A friend's text, a quiet coffee, the fact that you're still here, thinking, feeling, breathing. These moments are the raw materials of meaning. They're what Camus meant by the struggle itself fills a man's heart. Gratitude turns existence from punishment into participation. Life doesn't owe you clarity. It offers you opportunity. Seeing that distinction is the beginning of wisdom. You'll notice something subtle when you practice gratitude. Your perception slows. Time expands. You start living in wider frames, not rushing toward tomorrow, but inhabiting now. The absurd no longer feels like mockery, it feels like mystery. Gratitude doesn't solve the silence of the universe, but it teaches you to listen differently. And sometimes, silence is not absence, it's depth. The path forward. Here's the truth. You don't need to escape your mountain. You need to see it differently. The absurd isn't your enemy, it's your teacher. It strips away illusion until what remains is the core of living: presence, responsibility, freedom. You can live meaningfully without guarantees. You can love without permanence. You can strive without reward. That's the paradox of a fulfilled life. It's built not on certainty, but on courage. Think about the moments that felt most alive. They weren't the times you had everything figured out. They were when you were fully immersed in something bigger than yourself. That's meaning. The Stoics called it living according to nature. Psychologists call it alignment. Both describe the same truth. When your actions reflect your values, emptiness dissolves. You can't control the world's silence, but you can control the music you make within it. So when life feels empty, remember, it isn't a void to fear, but a canvas to paint on. The brush is awareness. The color is choice. The form is love. Sisyphus's rock still waits, but now it's luminous in the sunlight of your consciousness. You no longer ask, "Is this it?" You whisper, "This is enough." The summit within. There's no final answer waiting at the top. The summit is the awareness that you were already complete during the climb. Meaning isn't found when the rock stays still. It's found in every deliberate push. You don't overcome the absurd. You outgrow your fear of it. That's the summit within. Not a finish line, but a steady state of defiant peace. So when the next morning comes and the rock waits again, smile softly. The mountain is the same, but you are not. You carry within you the quiet knowledge that every breath, every struggle, every conscious moment is meaning. The struggle itself fills your heart, and that's enough. If this journey has shifted something in you, even slightly, remember, growth happens in small realizations repeated daily. Subscribe, not out of routine, but as a reminder to keep returning to the climb. We're building a community of thinkers and seekers, People who refuse to live numb, who choose awareness over autopilot. Share this message with someone wrestling with the same questions. Maybe they're standing in their own silence, wondering if life will ever make sense. Sometimes all someone needs is to hear that the silence isn't failure, it's the start of awakening. And finally, thank you for your time, your attention, your willingness to think deeply. The world doesn't need louder voices, it needs quieter minds that listen. Stay curious, stay steady, and keep climbing.